Every relationship is unique. Do not listen to what other people are telling you that you should be doing. You rarely see men out there that are successful and just completely single. If you have the right woman in your corner, you will do way better than by yourself.
Where do you go to find, or where have you gone to find that type of woman?
Literally, I would go out with 5, 6 different women a week.
Money brings you a certain sense of calmness, stability. Yeah. What do you think about women who seek that from a man?
It's about to grace us, whether extraordinary, 10x skill. 10x badass. Yeah, I'm after what I want. Money that I'm getting.
Gentlemen, we're having on the show to interview and ask today, DJ Vlad. Give it up for DJ Vlad, shall we?
Thank you. I'm honored.
Yeah,
I'm honored.
I'm honored because I just tracked you down and you were so willing. I was like, hey, can I interview you? And you said yes.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Cancel my Uber and, here we are.
All right, so let's get into this now. Can you tell us just a little bit about yourself, where you came from? How did you grow such a massive audience that you have today?
I was born in the Ukraine. It was the USSR at the time. I moved to this country when I was 5 with my parents. I'm my only child. I grew up in the Bay Area. I was always into computers. I went to school at UC Berkeley, majored in computer science, and did some programming for a little while, and then started my own company, which was a technical recruiting firm at the time. And that was going well for a few years, and the dot-com crash happened and completely wiped us out. Had to sell my house, got depressed, but I've always wanted to do music. I always wanted to do hip hop. I was a breakdance kid, and that was kind of my first love.
You know how to breakdance?
I did. I don't know so much anymore.
Okay.
I'm 50 now, so
all right.
I'm not quite as nimble as I used to be. So at the age of around 29, I kind of made the decision that, I'm going to try the music thing, the hip hop thing, because I figured if I would wait a little bit longer, I'd be a little bit too old to start. You could be an older person in the music industry as a veteran,
producer,
a legend, but starting off brand new in your 40s or 50s is a little silly. So I kind of, I moved to New York. I was living in Oakland at the time. I moved to New York in 2002. And just started from the very bottom. Started doing mixtapes, started DJing shows, started winning awards for my mixtapes. Got Mixtape of the Year.
Okay, time out. When you did that, was the depression subsiding when you started producing?
It was still kind of depressing because I was broke at the time. When I moved to New York, I was essentially homeless. I was sleeping on a couch of a club promoter that I was working with until they essentially kicked me out. So I had to go get a small 1-bedroom apartment in the hood. In Brooklyn, and just had to kind of start all over again in life. And I knew that if I had gotten a 9-to-5 job, then it would veer me off track of what I really wanted to do in terms of what I was passionate about. So
Which was what? What were you passionate about? The hip hop?
Yeah, I was passionate about the music, about the culture, about everything around it, about the entertainment industry. And this wasn't something I went to school with. It wasn't something that my parents were really thrilled about, but this was something that I wanted to do out of life. So it started kind of like a 10-year rebuilding process, going from essentially the very bottom, being completely broke, to slowly figuring things out.
Okay, so time out. Or did you finish?
Finish what?
Did you finish where the evolution about a little bit about yourself?
Pretty much. So I started out doing mixtapes and DJing parties, but that market was starting to go away because CDs were going away. And the mom and pop stores that I was selling to were going out of business and so forth. So then I kind of transitioned into DVDs, into sort of the visual part of things, because it was sort of the same thing in a different type of way. Music and video are kind of interrelated in the way you put it together. So I started with DVDs, but then the DVDs started to go away as well because on demand started becoming more of a thing. And then in 2008, YouTube, that had been around for a few years, started what's called as a partner program, which was a way for people to make money off of YouTube by YouTube running ads. And they basically just split the ad money with you. And as soon as that came around, I was introduced to a guy at YouTube who was a fan of my mixtapes, and he kind of got me on the program, really quickly. And, the light bulb went off, and I just said, this is going to be the next thing that I'm going to be focusing on. And that was 2008. And the idea was to drop content every day, 365 days a year. And that's essentially what we still do 15 years later, except it's not just one piece of content, it's about 10 to 15 pieces of content.
Got it. And so you said that you were still depressed because you weren't making money. Does money make you happy?
Money makes me happy. Yeah, I'm not going to tiptoe around that.
Yeah,
People like to say that, oh, it's not that. I think anyone who says that money doesn't make them happy hasn't made enough money yet.
What about it makes you happy?
Really, the stability. Not buying anything. Buying items is nice. I have a nice house, a nice watch collection, nice clothes, nice cars.
Best not watch. What's your nicest watch?
This is probably my favorite watch. So this is the Rolex Platinum Presidential.
Okay. How much is that watch?
I think about 75.
Wow.
Something like that. 75,000.
Okay.
I have a nice watch collection.
Okay.
So buying things is cool, but I think having, a large amount of money in your bank account, that's really what kind of changes your life, because you have a level of stability where, when things start to change, there's always going to be things that happen in your life that you're not expecting. Whether it's COVID or a recession or, your business suddenly gets hit or, medical issues or just people around you that need help. You know what I'm saying? When those types of things happen and you have a certain amount of money that you're sitting on, you're affected by it, but it's not as serious as when, like when I was broke, I remember going over my minutes on my cell phone and suddenly I had like a $500 phone bill and I was like, oh my God, how am I going to pay this? Like I wasn't ready for this bill. And now I got to figure out how to hustle up and make this money. But, when these types of things happen, when you have a financial base, it gives you a level of calmness and it also allows you to make long-term decisions as opposed to, okay, let me just try to get through the week. Now it's like, no matter what happens, I have enough money to last me maybe for the rest of my life. So
really? And is this just from being paid on YouTube ads?
Well, there's YouTube, there's the website, VladTV.com. There's our Facebook property, there's Snapchat, and there's other like kind of licensing things that we do here and there and, and so forth. So there's different streams of income and new platforms come, new platforms go. But YouTube is sort of the base of our company. That's how it started. And still that's the main emphasis.
So why do you think that, is it safe to say that you are not uncomfortable to talk about money or are you comfortable talking about?
I could talk about money. I don't, I'm not going to say how much I have in my bank account or how much I bought my house for, but.
Do people look up to you for as if you could do it, they could do it type of, are you influential to them?
I think so. There's been a lot of, a lot of media companies have popped up since mine that have sort of taken my overall blueprints and done extremely well with it. And
do you get upset when you see that?
Not in the least. In fact, I usually embrace those people.
Okay.
Like, Charlemagne, who's on The Breakfast Club, DJ Academics, Sean Cotton, who owns Say Cheese, Adam 22, who owns No Jumper. These are all people that would watch my content as they were coming up. And when I saw them start to buzz, I would call them up and form a relationship with them. And then to this day, I'm still good friends with all of them. And we share information. We work together. We jump on each other's platforms. They'll do an interview with me. I'll do an interview with them. We share our audience and so forth. And
where did that mindset come from? Because most people, I think, have come from a scarcity mindset. Like, don't share, they're ripping me off.
Yeah,
like, how did your mindset come from that?
I've never been like that.
Yeah.
I've just never, ever been like that. Because I feel like the audience is big enough for everybody.
Yeah.
There's billions of people on this earth. Why are we arguing over a particular, 10,000 people that may overlap? Like, what's the big deal in that? It'd be better to work together and share resources and be friendly with each other as opposed to have a level of animosity towards each other. So I've always been like that. And, some people do have animosity towards me, and I've never understood it. I don't know. I think maybe they feel that by going against me, that'll somehow allow them to go up quicker. But I always thought that was silly, and then people that do that, I don't embrace myself, and I feel like they lose out from my relationship with them.
Right. Your influence.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. You told me that money brings you a certain sense of calmness, stability. Yeah. What do you think about women who seek that from a man?
I think it's natural. I think that most women want stability, and most women want a man that that does well for themselves. And I feel that if you have the right woman in your corner, you will do way better than by yourself. You know, you rarely see women out there. Sorry, you rarely see men out there that are successful and just completely single. You know, there are anomalies here and there, but most men are either married or in long-term relationships that are very successful. Because when you're just constantly dating new people, you have women or men, you know, in and out of your life, it creates a level of chaos that's hard to sort of maintain a level of stability. You know what I'm saying? If you have kids with 5, 6 different women and you have to deal with all these personalities and kids living in different homes and everything else like that, it's hard to really focus on what it is that you're trying to do business-wise. So, you know, it makes sense both ways. You know, I mean, I think women look for men that are stable and men look for women that are stable.
Is that the most attractive feature, or what is the most attractive feature in a woman?
I think intelligence and character. You know, like character, I think, is more important than anything else, because everything else will fade over time. Looks will fade over time, but when you meet someone with a certain type of character and someone who looks at things long term and is not just trying to get out of you what they can get out of you that particular day or that particular week, is transformative. And I think it's transformative for both people.
Mm-hmm. What do you think makes up that phrase, the woman behind the man? Like, what would that woman have to be like? I know you just said intelligent and she would have to be stable, but does she push you? Does she?
Yeah. The right woman will definitely push you. The right woman will.
Does it have to be in a loving way, or can it be aggressive? Or
It could definitely be aggressive. I've definitely had aggressive.
do you have a firsthand knowledge or experience on that?
Yeah,
Okay.
I've definitely had aggressive women in my day, and but I think that if you feel that the woman is important, you will push yourself based on that.
Like
you
she's
know what I'm saying?
a muse, a little bit of a muse.
Not even so much of a muse. It's just that, like, this person's important, and if this is what they want out of the relationship, then you should try to give it to them. And but in the process, this is something that's good for you as well. Like, you know, if a woman, you know, tells you that I want to marry a millionaire, is that a bad thing? I mean, do you not want to be a millionaire? Now, you might take it as like, oh, well, you know, she's trying to, you know, she needs to go find someone to do that. Or you could say, well, I could be a millionaire at some point. Mm-hmm. And maybe this person, if they want a millionaire, then they could help you to become that millionaire.
Yeah, like a teammate.
Like a teammate, exactly. I mean, no, everything is done as a team. You know, like I just looked through your husband, you know, I went by your husband's office and walked around and all the different people and everything else like that. Grant Cardone couldn't be Grant Cardone by himself.
You really believe that?
It's an impossibility.
Tell me, explain that.
Grant Cardone couldn't run a company this large if he was the only employee.
Million.
It's just not possible. Mm-mm. It's humanly impossible.
Right.
When you look at every successful person, there is not a single human being that's successful on this planet that is a one-person team. They have people around them. Now, they could be the main talent behind it if they're, let's say, a singer or an entertainer or an athlete or whatever else. But even those people have big teams behind them. If you're an artist, you have producers, you have managers, you've got the label that's behind you. You have songwriters probably. And then doing shows, you have all the people, all the booking agents and everything else like that. If you're an athlete, you have trainers, you have the team behind you, you have the league behind that team. It's literally usually hundreds, if not thousands of people that are involved in that one person's success that people see as success, but it's really all the people that are involved in that success.
Right.
Yeah.
Where do you go to find, or where have you gone to find that type of woman that shares that mentality? Is she in a bar?
I mean,
is she
when you look for a relationship, you know, it has to be like a job.
Oh.
You can't just look at it as luck. You know, like I remember, you know, throughout my life, you know, when I was single, I would treat dating as a job. It was something I would do every day. I would, whether it's going out or going online or talking to people or going to certain events or whatever else, it was an actual job. And sometimes it's a numbers game because that person is not just going to pop up into your life by itself, unless, you know, maybe once you reach a certain level of fame where people are constantly approaching you and so forth, but most human beings aren't like that. Most human beings have to go and find that person. And now you could, you know, if you're religious, you might think that God will just bring that person to you, but I don't really believe that. I think that a lot of people who I know that are still single, they don't really try that hard to find somebody and they just stay single.
Do they like being single? I'm under the mindset that this may or may not be true for you, but as a woman, I feel that women are, and it's a generality, but more or less indoctrinated to if you have multiple partners or whatnot, or maybe well, first of all, do you think a woman who sleeps with a guy on the first date is a slut?
No.
Okay. So a woman, but they could be considered kind of more degraded, where as a generality, men are men when they have lots of women and you know, they it's like an ego thing, and so they're not looked at as degradefully. Do you?
I don't really agree with that.
No?
No, I don't think so. I mean, every situation is unique and every relationship is unique. And the problem is that we live in a world where things are presented a certain type of way, whether it's on social media or television or whatever else. You know, like for example, there's a story that's kind of viral right now. This guy named Joe Smith. He was a former NBA player. Do you know about the story I'm talking about? Okay, so Joe Smith was in the NBA for 11 years. 11 years? 11 or 12 years. He made $61 million. But by the end of his career, you know, he was married a lot of time. He ended up having 4 kids outside his relationship. His wife divorced him at the time that, you know, no team wanted to pick him up. And the money had essentially, between the taxes and everything else and the divorce and everything else like that, the money had essentially run out. So he ended up meeting a woman who used to do adult films. And, you know, she had stopped. She did them like in the 80s and early 90s. By that time, she had stopped for a long time. They ended up dating. They ended up getting married. Wow. And
Good.
Just recently, it became viral when he found out that she had an OnlyFans account.
Recently?
Recently. This happened like about a week ago. Right? He found out just randomly walking by her that she was on OnlyFans, and she ended up recording the argument that they had and putting it out. And this went super viral. It went all over the place.
Oh.
And, you know, everyone had their opinion about it. And I did an interview with him a few days ago. And actually, the first part dropped today. So in the interview, what I explained to him was that regardless of what, like everyone's going to have an opinion about this. Oh, you know, that's your own fault for marrying a porn star, or, you know, oh, you know, you can't turn a hoe into a housewife or whatever else. People are going to have their opinion. But my statement to him was, if this is someone that works for you, every relationship is unique. And if this is someone that's been there for you when you haven't had money, and her rationale was, look, we don't have a lot of money. I'm doing what we have to do to make money. Now, she's doing like solo stuff on OnlyFans. It's not like she's with another man or she's cheating on him or whatever else.
Oh, you don't know that part.
What do you mean?
Oh, you're saying...
No, I do know that part.
That she wasn't. She's
only doing solo stuff.
Got it. Okay.
Right? And she's like, well, you know what I did before we met, and you're not making money right now, so I've had to, for the past year, she's been doing this to make money for the household. And of course, he feels upset because he didn't know, and she put the video out. But what I said was, every relationship is unique. Do not listen to what other people are telling you that you should be doing, because a lot of these people who have this facade of a perfect marriage, a perfect relationship, there's lots of crazy stuff that's happening behind the scenes in their world, but because we don't see videos of it, it's not on social media, there's a facade of how it looks. If this person really cares for you and you guys could work it out, you should try to work it out. You know what I mean? Now, if it doesn't work out, then it doesn't work out, but the only people that matter in this conversation are the two of you. And that's that. Every relationship has its own problems and so forth. I'm sure your relationship with Grant has its own problems that we don't know about and we'll never know about and we shouldn't know about.
That's right.
Because you guys don't put out your private lives like that. But every relationship has arguments. Every relationship has issues. So at the end of the day, don't let the world tell you what you should be doing, because if this person is really there for you and this person makes you happy and this person has been by your side and this person has helped you through the tough times, you should take that into account before ending the relationship.
Yep. 1,000,000% agree.
Yeah.
So controversy.
Yeah.
How did you find your talent for making videos dynamic and going after that sort of controversy and to make it exciting? Like, where did that come from?
I think coming into the business, what I noticed was that hip hop media was very softball as a whole. Like, I like to watch 60 Minutes or shows like that. You know,
like
Dateline.
investigative reporting,
you know, interviews that when they come out, they change the world, they change laws, they affect countries, they you know, they do that type of thing. But whenever I watched, you know, radio interviews or other hip hop video interviews, it was just very softball questions. All the stuff that people really want to know about doesn't get asked, either because the interviewer was too scared to ask the person, because, you know, hip hop is still a very street oriented culture, and sometimes there is the threat of violence and so forth. So I think a lot of people were either scared, or they're you know, not very good interviewers, or they're kind of bowing to the pressure of whatever the label or the PR person tells them they should and should not ask, which makes for boring content. As far as I'm concerned.
And so what do you do if they say, don't go there?
Well, listen, if they say don't go there, I'm not going to go there. But if they don't tell me don't go there, I'm going to go there.
Right.
And if there's a problem afterwards, then I'll deal with that problem. I've just been very fearless in my approach. Like, I will ask pretty much anything, you know, if there are, you know, money problems, if there's arrests, if there's gay rumors, if there's infidelity, if there is, you know, losses or so forth, I will ask the question. And over time, you start to learn how to navigate these types of interviews and how to ask a question without having the person storm out of the interview. You know, so that was really my whole thing, is I would just be very hard hitting in what I did. And nobody was doing that at the time. Now it's a little bit more common. I think a lot of people have taken the blueprint of what I set up and are doing the type of thing that I used to do, that I still do. But at the time, I think that was a differentiator. You know what I mean? So there was always, like, you know, the whole thing started, you know, people started calling me the police or the feds, because I would ask the type of questions that no one else would ask. It almost sounded like police questions sometimes. But I would be the one with the guts to actually ask that. And it's not easy to do, because you're sitting down with a person you've never met before.
Right.
You don't know their background. You don't know their temperament. It could go very left field very quickly. So you have to learn how to do it with a certain amount of grace and a certain amount of tact. And I think that's what the differentiating factor was with me.
And do you know the headline that you're kind of going for when you go there? You kind of set them up?
Yeah. I mean, just today, you know, during my interview with Grant, you know, he said,
wait, he interviewed you?
I interviewed him.
Wait, I thought you already interviewed him.
I did, but we're still, the interview's still rolling out, because, you know, we do the interview and we chop it up into parts.
Got it.
So I don't know if you've seen the headline from like yesterday.
Oh, dear.
You know what I'm talking about?
No.
Okay, well, then I'm going to spring it on you. So
Spring it.
I'm springing it. So we were talking about all the different people that he interviewed.
Okay.
So when I brought up Tom Brady, he said,
oh, I do know what you're talking about.
right. He said, you know, if I were to be gay, it would be with Tom Brady. Me and him were just locked in. I was so attracted to him and he's doing this on purpose, right?
He's trying to
He's
create
playing with it.
controversy.
Right. And we titled it around that. We titled it around Grant Cardone said he'd be gay for Tom Brady. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, Grant Cardone's not gay. We all know that. But you know, it's that type of headline that will make people say, okay, I got to hear this. Like I got to see what he has to say. So,
but inside scoop, just so you know, I know who his real man crush is.
Who is that?
It's Jason Statham.
Really?
No joke.
No joke.
That's his real. That's his real man crush.
Next interview, I'll bring this up.
Okay, go ahead.
Right.
So now you have the inside skinny.
Now I got the inside scoop.
Okay.
Right. So, you know, so we title it around that, and I usually handle most of the titles. You know, one of my managers will handle some of the interviews that usually I don't do myself, but most times I'll handle it because after 15 years, you kind of have an idea about what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You like what you do?
I love what I do.
Are you happy?
I'm happy.
Married or single?
No comment.
No, it's a question. What do you think for others?
For others?
What do you think is a better life, married or single?
I think it's unique. I think marriage works for some people. It doesn't work for everybody.
True.
I think it really kind of comes down to the person. I think that just saying being married in general doesn't always work. Because being married to the wrong person is awful.
Disastrous, huh?
You know, it's horrible. But I think also marriage, the institution brings a level of stability that dating someone doesn't have. You know, if you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, one bad fight, you guys move out, you know, or if you're not even living together, it's really an afternoon could end that relationship. If you're married, you have joint bank accounts, you have kids, you have maybe a business you run together. There's a lot that goes in it. You start thinking about the process of the divorce and how long it'll take and how much money it's going to cost.
And if there's kids.
And there's kids and you know, splitting up the household and everything else like that. It makes you think twice in terms of splitting up with that person and say, okay, well, let's try to work it out. Now, obviously, a lot of people get divorced, so it doesn't always work. But I think more people break up from their boyfriend or girlfriend than get divorced.
Yeah, that's true.
So, yeah.
So do you think, back onto the marriages, do you think people give up too easy nowadays on marriage because they can? Or do you think...
I think it's always been the same.
You do?
I think it's always been the same.
What about like our grandparents that stayed together forever? There wasn't this.
But I think there was more of a necessity back then. I think that, you know, if a woman can't get a job, what is she going to do if she gets divorced? Plus, there's also a stigma about divorced women.
That's true.
That's not really there anymore.
That is not there.
You know what I mean? Like a divorcee is not considered like someone with a plague in 2023 like it was in 1953.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
or a woman who has a child is not considered as undesirable as she was in 1953. You know what I'm saying?
Million.
Like, and you'd have to settle and so forth. So I think, you know, there's a lot more women in the workplace. There's more women going to college. There's more millionaire women. There's, you know, there's more Oprahs out there these days that don't feel like they have to get married if they don't want to because they have their own money. So I think in terms of that, it's different. But ultimately, if you put the same situation now to then, you'd probably have the same level of breakups. You know, ultimately, if you can't stand the person, you can't stand the person.
So if we don't know if you're married or single, is it important to you that the woman has her own money?
I mean, if you're in a serious relationship, it doesn't matter whose money it is. It's all family money.
Yeah.
You know, I've never been...
Oh, we're going to love hearing this.
Yeah, I mean, I've in my adult life, I've never done the 50-50 thing with women. Like the last time I did 50-50 was with my girlfriend in college. But we were broke college students.
Right.
You know, we had a little bit of money. Our parents were both helping us out. So, yeah, I mean, we split 50-50 because there was nothing coming in. We were going to college and paying tuition and so forth. But as an adult, I never asked women, you know, a woman that I was seeing to pay half the rent or pay the bills or split dinners or anything else like that. I felt as the man, that was my job to cover all that. And I felt that if I was in the right relationship, I would do better overall and it would matter even less.
Did you ever come across a woman who was offended that, like, no, like, I don't need your money? Like, they wanted to pay 50-50?
Not really. not really. And in fact, I remember one of my relationships, it was with a girl from Indonesia whose family came from a lot of money. And she would pay for more stuff. And I remember she said if we ever got married, that her family would buy us a house and so forth. And I didn't really like that idea. It rubbed me a little bit wrong, because it's like, well, then we'll be living in your family's house, so I can get kicked out of my own house. You know, I don't know. To me, it was almost like a pimp mentality that I never really liked. You see what I'm saying? It's like, even if a woman made more money, I wouldn't expect her to really do that. I would just be more motivated to make more money than her. You see what I'm saying? It's that type of thing.
But would it kill you if, no matter what, you couldn't make more money than her as a man?
I don't know. I think there's still, I think I have more traditional kind of values that would be weird to me. Like I said, I've only done it once where I've dated someone that did have more money than me. You know, and to me it was a motivating factor, because I remember the first time I drove a BMW was her BMW. And after we broke up, I bought the same type of BMW for myself, because I liked it and I wanted it for myself. But I was never wanted to just have her car and be happy with it. I wanted my own car.
Would you be resentful? Would that eat away at you if...
I don't know if I'd be resentful. I mean, look, you don't know who you're going to fall in love with. You don't know who you're going to hook up with. You know, at some point in my life, you know, if I meet someone who's a billionaire as a female and we really click and everything else like that, I'd have to just accept things for what they are, you know. But it's not something that I strive for, search for, or I look for. And I never really have. I always felt like I just had a lot of confidence in who I was. And even during my lowest points, you know, I remember one of my lowest points in New York when I'd moved there. You know, the club gigs were drying up. The mixtape business wasn't quite there yet. And I remember I took a job at a strip club, which seemed like a good idea at the time.
Like as a bartender?
As a DJ. As a DJ at a strip club. I'm like, oh, okay, I get to DJ and be around beautiful women. This is the best of both worlds, right? But it wasn't. It was a miserable place.
Why?
Because it was like a failing strip club. It was always empty. There was like this fat kind of mafia-looking guy that ran it. And it was just sort of depressing overall. And I remember one day he just yelled at me in front of all the girls. And I was like, man, fuck this job. Like, you know, and I'm thinking like, I am meant for so much more than this. And he doesn't see it. And that's okay. He doesn't have to see my vision.
Right.
But I'm meant for so much more than this. So I'd be damned if I'm going to let this man disrespect me. And I remember I came up to him, I said, listen, like, I don't talk to you like that. And I don't expect you to talk to me like that. He goes, I don't care what you expect. And I'm like, well, fuck this job and fuck you. And
Did you say that?
Yeah. I unplugged everything and I left and never went back. And you know,
do you think the girls felt the same way?
Probably.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, probably. You know, and it's like, but I've always known that even in my lowest points that I was destined for something bigger. I knew that if I kept working on it, I would eventually achieve it. It may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, but it will be eventually, you know, achievable, because work is never really wasted. You know, like for years I used to think that me getting a computer science degree was a waste of time, because now I was in the music industry and I'm not utilizing these skills. But you fast forward 2023, VladTV, you know, I spent over $1 million in the back end technology of VladTV in terms of the content management system and so forth. Like I remember we hired, you know, one of our newest managers was blown away. He's like, I've never been in a company that runs so smoothly technologically, with such a small team creating so much content. It usually takes 10 times as many people to create this, because I've spent $1 million, not only spending $1 million, but also all the training I got learning computer science allowed me to architect the system to work with my programmer. Although I wasn't coding myself, I would tell him what I think should be done, and then we'd work it out and we'd create this technology that nobody else in the industry really could make, because they don't have that type of background. So it's never wasted. You may think what you did was wasted at a certain point, but later on you could pull back and utilize it in what it is that you do. So if you keep working, you will eventually be successful at something. Now, if you're just lazy and you don't have aspirations, then you will probably stay where you are for long
Right.
periods of time. Some people get comfortable being uncomfortable. I was never like that. Being in a one bedroom, in a studio apartment in Brooklyn with a radiator that wouldn't turn off and just going like, yo, like, how did I get here? It's like, okay, like I'll eventually get out of this. I'll eventually get through this. And if I keep working every single day, I'm not taking any days off. I'm not taking drugs. I'm not just partying. I will eventually get out of this. And it took about a decade, but I did get out of it. And then I achieved.
A decade?
Yeah. From 2002 until 2012. It took me that, from about 2000 to like 2010, it took me about a decade to get back to where I was before everything crashed. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen in a year or two. And, when you look at most millionaires, they're in their 60s in America.
Right.
So when it's great to look at someone who's blew up in their 20s. That's great. Good for them. It's great to look at an athlete that was born 7 feet tall and could go straight into the NBA. That's great. That's not me. That's not you. That's not Grant.
No.
Like, we're not born like this.
Right.
So we have to actually work for it. And the only way to achieve it is to work for it.
Mm-hmm. How do you find the talent that you have and surround yourself with? You create it or you find it?
No, it's a process. Hiring is always the hardest part of any business. It always is, because you have to do it and you don't know the person. You could do background checks, you could do interviews, you could do a lot of stuff, but ultimately you could hire someone who could be a cancer in your organization.
Yes.
And then getting rid of them is a whole process.
Oh.
So in terms of that, it's just like, it's hard. It's hard, but you try to look for good people. You try to have good managers. You try to treat people well.
Mm-hmm.
You try to create a system where they could thrive. And if you have to get rid of them, you try to do it as nicely as possible. You try to have them try to turn it around and so forth, but it doesn't always work out. Not everyone wants to work. Not everyone's compatible with your company. But it's tough. It's the toughest part of the business, which is why when you look at most companies, their biggest expense is their staff, right?
Yeah.
Most companies, that's what you spend the most money on. You look at a football team, most of the money spent on the players.
Right.
This is not a unique situation. You look at a corporation and you see how much the CEO is paid and all the vice presidents and everything else like that. This is where the billions of dollars and the hundreds of millions is being spent. It's not easy, and it's something that I work on every day.
I love that. 2 more questions.
Yeah.
So, do you think the young men of today are interested in this mentality that you have where you want to provide because that makes you feel good to be able to do that? Or do you think they're resentful of that? Or do you think the men of today are a little less manly?
Yeah, men are definitely less manly today. You see more men wearing, nail polish and wearing skirts and, wearing lipstick and, stuff like that. And if that's what they want to do, that's cool.
Can a man be a woman?
Meaning?
Biologically?
Biologically, no.
Yeah.
But, if you're trans and that's the way that you want to present yourself, I think that's fine.
Yeah.
I think that some people...
But do you have to then say it?
You don't have to do anything, but you try to be respectful to people.
Yeah.
If they present themselves as a woman, then they expect to be, talked to, referred to as a woman. And you don't want to offend anybody. You don't want to make anyone feel bad. Obviously, being trans, and I've interviewed people that are trans before.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot to deal with. If you're going through all this, to do all this, knowing the backlash from society and everything else, but you still feel strongly enough to want to do this, you got to feel for that person.
For sure.
They're not doing it for clout or for some likes. That's how they feel inside, and that's what makes them feel comfortable. Certain things I do that make me feel comfortable, certain people may not understand either, but you want to respect that. Now, can they have children? No.
Should they be allowed to compete in women's sports? Do you think that's fair?
It becomes unfair.
Yeah.
It becomes unfair because biologically men are just stronger than women.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you had a situation where you had a trans a trans swimmer that competed in women's sports, who was number
Riley Gaines, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the woman that he beat out was Riley Gaines.
Right.
Yes.
But this person was ranked like 150th, and then they became first by swimming against women, biological women. So that's unfair to all the women that could have gotten trophies that day, but instead got pushed down because there's someone who was born stronger, and has an unfair advantage. Now, some people could say, well, if you take enough hormones or whatever else, it sort of equalizes it. So I'm not sure about the exact details, but I don't personally love the idea of someone doing that. Like, I remember, I think in Canada, they had passed a law where anyone can compete in anything and you can't discriminate. So this male powerlifter basically entered a female powerlifting competition and won every record, beat every record ever done just to prove a point. And said, here you go. I've beaten out everybody in every category and set every world record in Canada in this competition. And I'm sure all the women were pissed off that this just happened.
For sure.
Yeah. Because all the women who really trained and took it seriously and went to the gym every day and didn't see their kids because they were competing towards this competition are suddenly second and third place because this man just came in and said, I identify as female. Like for example, if Kevin Durant put on a wig and joined the WNBA, what do you think would happen? It'd be a slaughter. It'd be a slaughter. It wouldn't even be close. It
would be like having a child compete against an adult.
Right.
Or a woman.
Exactly.
Or, it's just, it's a physical misalignment there.
Yeah. But is there a place for society for trans people? 100%. Just like there's a place for society for gay people. There's a place in society for bisexual people. Like you should be accepted as who you are and do what it is you want to do as long as you're not hurting other people. But there's also things that are just basically unfair. And I think that in sports, you're starting to see that to a certain degree.
Right.
A biological male competing against female boxers or MMA fighters would end up being very bad for the females.
Very bad.
Very bad. So in terms of that, that's kind of where my point of view is, but not everyone agrees with that, and I understand.
Right. You come from, where do you live?
I live in LA, in Calabasas.
Yeah, okay. Well, I've enjoyed you being here, answering all of my phenomenal questions about men, women, etc., where you came from. Men, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But so last question, let's end with this. If a woman is out there and she's running into difficulty finding like a good man that still thinks in her mind traditionally, like is looking for a traditional man, where does she go to find that guy?
I think it's a process. Like I said earlier.
Like, because you said it was a job. Like, so how does she, where does she start? Like, okay, where do I go? How do I get known?
I mean, the easiest way is probably online. I mean, like the various dating sites, the various dating apps, the various dating services, but it has to, but you have to treat it like the person that you are compatible with is not necessarily, they're not just going to drop in your lap. So you have to go out there and date a lot and meet a lot of people until you finally find someone that you find. I mean, I remember during times where I was completely and totally single, it's like literally I would go out with 5-6 different women a week. Not because I was like.
Now, are you sleeping with all these girls?
Not all of them.
Not all of them.
Not all, because you don't click with everybody.
Yeah, true.
You go on a date, you meet with, especially if you meet someone online, it's hard to even know if you're even physically attracted to somebody.
Right.
I remember, talking to a girl online, and she only had like a headshot. It was only like her head.
Scary.
You know what I'm saying? And we met up, and she was extremely heavyset, which is it's not my thing.
Right.
But it's other men are really into that. It's just not my thing. So we sat and we had drinks, and I said, thank you for your time. And, that was that.
Was she upset?
I'm sure she was a little disappointed. You know what I'm saying? But, I think she also knew that by presenting herself a certain type of way, she's going to end up in this situation, as opposed to saying, here's what I look like, here's multiple pictures or videos, or let me just be honest and everything else like that. So I'm attracting the type of men that may be physically attracted to me, as opposed to kind of hopping in that situation and just hoping that that's something that she might say might get past that. But, I absolutely wasn't sleeping with everybody, not by a long shot. But it got, I got to meet a lot of people, and some of them became friends, and some of them, we dated for a while, and sometimes it lasted longer than others, and so forth. But you kind of know what it is that you are looking for. When you click with somebody, that you start to get to know them, you start to realize their values. And if you're looking for a certain type of thing, a certain type of person, you have to spend the time to find that person. Sometimes that person might not even be in the same country as you.
That's true.
Some people, they might not be in the same city, the same state. They might be a different age than you. You and Grant have a bit of an age difference.
15
right?
years.
Yeah, 15 years.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying?
As he gets older, I'm thinking of stretching that difference out. But so far, it's still just 15.
Right.
It might go up to 20 at some point, but
Right. But if you were only looking for men your own age,
right,
you may not have found the person that you're looking for.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
So you
I
have
wasn't
to,
even looking for him.
Right.
He had to kind of hound dog me for quite a while.
Right. There you go. Sometimes it's a person that's a different race. Sometimes a person that's a different religion.
Right.
And so forth. Like you have to be, it's a job. Like you have to really
It is a job.
open things up, and you have to really spend the time, because finding the right person, I think Warren Buffett even said this, is the most important decision of your life. It could so drastically change, your mate could so drastically change the trajectory of your life.
Totally.
With the right person or the wrong person. And I've had some nightmare women in my day. Like I've had absolute train wrecks. And I imagine what my life would have been if I had stayed with them, or if we had children, and I was suddenly stuck with them for the next 18 years, it would have drastically changed my life. And me, like I said, like in 2002, when I moved to New York, I couldn't have done that if I had one or more kids at that time. I would have been stuck in that place, because I would have to take care of my kids, or I'd not even have to take care of them, but I'd want to be around my kids. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those things where a lot goes into it. And if you are looking for that one type of, something that's compatible with your values, that person is out there, but you have to be willing to put in the work. Just like your career, you're not just going to wake up in the morning and they're going to offer you the president of Chase Manhattan. You have to work your way through the system, and you have to start from, being a teller and work your way up to a manager and work your way to this, and then maybe go to a different bank, and then, and so forth and so forth and so forth. Relationships are pretty similar to that. And I think a lot of people feel, especially if they're religious, sometimes they'll feel that God will bring that person to them or so forth. But I haven't seen that to be true.
Right.
Yes, you get lucky sometimes. Sometimes you meet the love of your life in high school, and you guys are in the same class, and you guys are, spend the rest of your time, your lives together. But I haven't seen that very often. I just haven't. And, like in your case, Grant had to pursue you. If Grant didn't say, well, look, if she's not interested in me and I'm Grant Cardone, then whatever. He had to put in the work, right? He had to pursue you and put in the work 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 until finally he got to actually get past the hurdle of you being open to the situation. But if he had just given up early, then you might see a very different Grant Cardone. The two kids that you guys have, those kids would not be there.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
He might have had other kids, but you wouldn't have had those kids.
That's right.
And however you guys operate and his level of success and your role in that success would not have been there. Mm-hmm. It might have been.
That's true.
Whatever it would have been, it would have been different.
I'm only interested in heightened levels of success. I think the whole reason why somebody should be together with a partner, when I was trying to figure out this thing called marriage, because I got married before I really even understood it. I just thought, oh, monogamous and we live happily ever after kind of a thing. I didn't realize, okay, for us, it was I can hit my peak, my highest point. Same with him. Like I take no credit for Grant's genius to this point. But anything from here to here, that's mine.
You're part of that.
I helped create that. I helped push him to where he couldn't.
Yeah.
But I want to ask you this, because you said going back to the heavier set, overweight type, is not your thing.
Not my thing.
Now let's say you're with a girl and all of a sudden she starts putting on a few pounds. Are you going to address it? Are you going to handle it? Are you going to break up with her? What are you going to do?
No, I'm not going to break up with her. I'm not going to shame her into that. But I think that if you're with somebody, being overweight more so than just the attractiveness level or whatever, or being attracted to the other person, it becomes a health issue. Like at the beginning of COVID, I lost 30 pounds.
Good for you.
Because, it's something I'd always wanted to do, but once I realized that the mortality rate with COVID had to do with weight, it was like, okay, now I have no excuse.
Right.
Like if I catch it and I die, it's going to be my own fault.
Right.
So let me seriously take my health. That's why I started, when I started researching about how most people lose weight is through understanding how calories work and, calorie counting and so forth. So I took it very seriously and I lost 30 pounds and I've kept it off for the last 3 years. So if a person that I'm with starts to become obese, it's going to be more of a conversation of you're going to die early if you continue this path that you're on.
Right.
Like this is regardless of whether I'm
so
around or not.
So a few pounds isn't a problem.
Well,
where are we talking obese levels?
Nothing is really a problem if you love the person.
Right.
Because you stop to see, it's not the same as when you first meet the person.
Right, that's true. It evolves.
You live with the person, you see them without their makeup and, without their hair done or whatever else. It's not, it's really becomes more of a friendship and a relationship and a bond after a while.
Okay, your girlfriend, if she has because Grant gets so mad at me if I use his shower and I pull off these are real today.
Okay.
But if I were wearing them and sometimes I leave them now because I know how much it irritates him, but I always think I want to leave these little reminders behind. Like, do things like that irritate you?
I don't really care about that.
No.
At the end of the day, I've always had housekeepers even when I didn't have a lot of money.
Yeah.
I'm not good at cleaning myself, but I don't like living in dirty environments.
Right.
So I've always had someone come and clean my house for me professionally because they'll do a better job than I could ever do.
Highest and best interest of your time.
I don't do laundry myself because, even when I was completely single, I would do wash and fold.
Right.
I try to maintain a level of cleanliness, but I know that my time is better spent doing things that actually make money as opposed to spending time cleaning.
Right.
When you could pay someone and that not only does a better job get done, but you're also helping that person out financially.
Right.
Everyone is doing what they're supposed to do when they're getting, money, money is not meant to be stagnant. It's meant to be moved around.
I agree.
So whenever I have an opportunity to move money around, I always try to do that because that's how money is supposed to go. And that's how you can make more money. It's like a river. You know what I'm saying? If you just put a dam onto it, everything will get wrecked after a while. But so yeah, I don't care about, that type of thing. I mostly, one of my turnoffs is that if I meet a woman and I go to her home and it's like a hamster cage, if they are okay with living in squalor, you see what I'm saying? If they're okay with just being messy and nasty, then that's a big turnoff.
That's
for
a
me.
no-go.
Yeah, that's
I don't like
especially
that
if they know
either.
someone's coming over. Like they don't even clean up for that.
Like if that's the best at their best, I'm scared.
That to me has always been a big turnoff. But when it comes to everything else, like you could pay someone to do that. It's not really that expensive most times.
Right. I agree.
Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, DJ Vlad, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Woo!
Whether extraordinary, 10x skill. 10x badass. Yeah, I'm after what I want.